I now call this regular meeting of the Committee of the Whole to order at 5:30 p.m. Please call the roll.
Ms. Pearson?
Present.
Mr. Schubert?
Here.
Ms. McCall? Ms. Bennett?
Here.
Mr. Carpenter?
Here.
Ms. Haley?
Here.
Ms. Stanford?
Here.
With 6 members present and 1 absent, we have a quorum.
We will now take a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we start each board meeting, it bears reminding that the mission of Rockford Public Schools is to collaboratively engage all students in an equitable, first-class education for a changing world. I wish to welcome Superintendent Student Advisory Council Representative Aliana McKee from Jefferson High School. Let's give her a hand. Are there any changes or additions to the meeting minutes? If not, is there a consensus to approve by the nodding of your head? Thank you. Ms. Stanford would now lead the Stakeholders Committee portion of the meeting. Ms. Stanford?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll begin by showing our committee's 12-month agenda. Our feature presentation tonight will be with our Athletics Director, Dawn Williamson, and Fine Arts Director, Melissa Wolf, for a front porch update. But first, let's begin by celebrating the good things happening in our district. Woohoo! Celebrating RPS 205. On December 15th, the administrative building here at RPS showed off their Christmas spirit by celebrating with National Ugly Christmas Sweater Day. Each floor was also encouraged to participate in an all-floor potluck in celebration of the holiday season. In the month of December, Earl and Aaron visited Welsh, Froburg, Westview, Cherry Valley, Carlson, Brookview, Riverdale, Lewis Lemon, Gregory, McIntosh, Whitehead, and West. Here are a couple of pictures featuring Earl and Aaron's visits. We always enjoy seeing the smiling faces. And Earl. For the first time ever, RPS 205 now has a 5th grade district-wide band. December 11th, Eisenhower hosted the ensemble's first performance. Faculty David Bartell, Dennis Meacham, and Max Medlock are running the RPS 5th grade band. This group will be a direct feeder into our middle school instrumental music ensemble. Congratulations on this new venture. The Leaders of Tomorrow program, led by Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer Dr. Antoine Reed, is making a significant impact on our scholars. Over the course of 5 weeks, Dr. Reed worked closely with 10 influential 5th graders, each with a specific role, emphasizing community, education, and leadership. Recently, McIntosh students completed the initial program and have progressed to the second stage, where additional members of the DEI department mentor them. In February, these students will have the opportunity to bring their insights and ideas directly to the forefront by meeting Superintendent Jarrett and other key figures in the 205 cabinet. This initiative not only fosters leadership skills, but also empowers young voices to contribute to the betterment of our school district. Norma Perez and Carolina Rodriguez were honored this year at the International Parents as Teachers Conference in New Orleans, Louisiana. Both parent educators were recognized for providing 10 years of dedicated service to children and families in home visiting. For more information about these two parent educators, please visit 205 Vibe blog on rps205.com. There are no legislative updates this month. Keep an eye out for your legislative updates via your RPS email inboxes. In early spring of 2023, Roosevelt was approached by one of RPS's industry partners for the Production Academy, Scott Jerry, Vice President at Jaron Industries. And he proposed that he would like to transform the space to match the workspace conditions of modern manufacturing. This was an important project to Jaron Industries because so much of their workforce depends on being able to hire RPS 205 graduates. Industry partnership is vital to the health of career and technical education. While every curriculum changes with time, the CTE curriculum changes with the ever-changing industries that surround our now global economy. We're so thankful here at RPS to have the opportunity to partner with such amazing businesses in the area and for the opportunity to transform this space into something that will help students learn and grow as young professionals. And now for our feature presentation, I'll turn the floor over to Dawn Williamson and Melissa Wolf for our front porch update.
Test 1, 2.
Thank you so much. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Dawn Williamson. I'm our athletic director for RPS 205. Super excited to be here to talk to y'all tonight. Whenever anyone gives me a chance to talk about athletics, I first always start with how amazing they are for our students, right? So they give our students kind of a sense of pride in what they've done. They give our students, studies have proven, right, that academically students do better who are in athletics, who are not in athletics. It gives them a level of grit, right, kind of a determination and persistence through tough times. All the wonderful things. They learn how to collaborate. They learn how to communicate. All the things that we want them to do when they're finished with us in our school system, they're going to get through our sports. So that's what sports are. Like, of course, we love to go and watch people play games and have a good time. And I love watching a game just like anyone else. But it's all this other stuff. That's why we're doing it. That's why we have sports at all three levels of our school district. Okay, now I'm going to move us to the next one here. Okay, so this is what we're talking about. Okay, we're going to talk about just the various levels. Like I said, we've got sports that we offer at elementary, so 4th and 5th grade. Middle school, we offer almost everything that we offer at the high school level. And then we're going to talk a little bit about high school, some of the other things that we do that are not within the buildings in terms of the sports that happen there. And then I want to talk a little bit, it's not going to be comprehensive about all the success that the students have had, but give you a picture of some of the really awesome things that our students are doing. Okay, so for elementary, so some of the changes that we've made. So I would say for elementary, the biggest one was coming up with a timeline so that everyone understood what was going on. And I'm sure you're thinking, well, that makes complete sense, and why wouldn't that always happen? But it hadn't. So we offer 2 sports at elementary. We offer soccer, which starts the 2nd week in September, and we offer basketball, which is supposed to start tomorrow. So what happened is, especially if you were a new principal or something like that, you wouldn't even know that soccer was starting. You know, school starts at the beginning of September. A couple of weeks later, all of a sudden, you're supposed to have teams ready to go. So you hadn't talked to your parents, you didn't have coaches available, just all of this stuff. So the principals actually asked for us to give them just a lead time, like tell us what we need to do, tell us who we need, tell us how we get those people there. So we've kind of created that stuff for them so that they're able to support the teams and the kids in their building who want to play sports. And it's panned out. Like, we've got a lot of kids. We had 30 soccer teams this year, which was more than we've had previously. And we've got 60 basketball teams that are signed up. So we've got a lot of fourth and fifth graders who are going to be playing sports with us. And we're adding chess this year because we do athletics and activities as part of my job. And we've got a pretty strong chess community in Rockford. So this idea actually came from one of our chess coaches. The chess coach at Guilford just sent me an email and said, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think that's a great idea." So we're going to start with a tournament, kind of a culminating tournament, and see where we are. I know a lot of our elementary schools have chess teams, so we're just going to see who's out there, who's got teams that wants to participate, and then ideally we're going to keep adding on. You know, each year we'll maybe add another tournament so that we've got kind of a series of tournaments that our students are able to participate in. And then when we move on to middle school, so we're planning to phase in sports at Montessori so that it's a standalone there. Right, currently they co-op with Eisenhower, so if a student's at Montessori, they have to go over to Eisenhower to play sports. For some of our sports, especially some of the more popular sports, I would say basketball, volleyball, that leads to cuts when we're combining our schools. So this is going to be able to give more students an opportunity to participate. And like I said, if we believe in all the stuff that I said about athletics, then we want more and more students to participate. So the more students that we can get to participate, the more these awesome benefits that they're going to be able to get through their participation. So that's starting next year to phase in at Montessori. And starting this year, this spring, we're going to be adding bowling to our the offerings that we're given at middle school level. So one of the things that I found out when I was just kind of looking around at the different things that we were doing, so people would ask, well, how come bowling isn't on the website? And I would say, well, because we don't offer bowling at middle school. Well, it turned out the bowling folks we're offering bowling to our kids, but at a price. And you know that we've decided that we're not going to charge our students to play sports. So what we've done is we've taken that over from them, and we're giving this opportunity to all of our middle school students, not just the ones who can afford the fee that was coming from the bowling alley. So I'm pretty excited. I think it's really going to blow up. I think a lot of our students are going to want to compete in bowling. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. It looks really good at the high school level, so I can't imagine that if we bring it down to the middle school level that we're not going to have a lot of students who want to participate. And then for high school, this past summer, because I know one of the big pushes that Dr. Jared and Earl Dotson Jr., my boss, have is making sure that our high school coaches are connected up with our middle school coaches, with our feeder programs. So this past summer, we were able to get over 50 of our coaches working that summer camp. So it wasn't a direct like feeder concept, but it was with our students. So the camp is 4th grade to 8th grade. So it's one of those kind of like the high tide raises all boats, right? So maybe you're not getting your specific feeder kid that's coming to your building, but we're getting all of our sports better. And when all of our sports are better, the district's just going to be stronger, it's going to be more competitive, and harder for other teams to come in and beat us. And that's what we're looking for. We want RPS 205 to be strong as a unit. And then finally, this is exciting to me, that the IHSA has approved flag football, girls flag football, starting next year. So we're looking into what that means for us. A lot of our students, I don't know if y'all realize, we've been doing it for a couple years. That was through the Park District. Now that the IHSA has taken it over, school districts will take on putting this on now. It was kind of funded by the NFL, and all over the country, different NFL teams were funding these flag football teams. Now that it's taken off, and it has taken off, it's really big here in Illinois and all across the country. We're going to be able to offer it to our students through scholastically rather than through the Park District. And I guess if anybody has questions, please just holler, and then I can answer whatever you have. And so one of the things that I am also really excited about is the Positive Coaching Alliance. I try and go to a lot of events, and one of the things that I saw was that some of our coaches needed to get trained on how to communicate with the students at their particular level, right? And another thing that I saw was some of our parents needed to understand what their role in the whole athletic world is. And we're a big district, and I kept thinking we need like a curriculum, like this is the thing we need. How do we do this so that we can give everyone the knowledge that they need, so everyone's kind of speaking the same language, coming from the same place? And Positive Coaching Alliance really steps in and does that. So they come to us and they do workshops, and they'll do workshops with parents, they'll do workshops with coaches, and it's really great to hear people talk. When you ask people, what's the thing that you remember about when you played a sport? It's not that we won this game or that game, it's that coach really made an impact on my life. And as a coach, it's the same. So, and I coached for years, and I know that it's easy to dive in, and you can be very narrow-minded about, I just want to win. But even the coaches say the exact same thing. We're doing this because we love the kids. We want them to be successful in life and all this kind of stuff. And this is what the Positive Coaching Alliance does, is it helps people keep athletics in perspective. Obviously, we want to be successful. Of course, we want to win. But what we're doing for these kids is all the other stuff that I was talking about at the beginning here. So that's that part. So this is the other stuff that we do that's not hosting games and putting on games and things. So we do lots of events. So we actually just finished up Rumble on the Rock. That's a basketball event. So it's our high school girls and boys basketball teams play against each other at RVC. So our Guilford will go against, Auburn, and Jefferson will go against East, and they'll play those games. And in the middle of that, RVC's teams will play. So it's just kind of this long day of Rockford basketball, and it's great. Our summer showcase, and it has an asterisk there because it has to get approved, and we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we get it. This is a NCAA recruiting event. So it's a big deal. We get college coaches from all over to come and see our students. And a lot of our students do want to play collegiately. So it's a really great opportunity for our students not to have to travel somewhere in order to be seen by collegiate coaches. We won't find out if we've been approved for it until April-ish. We got it last year. We're hoping we're able to get it this year. We're hoping we did a good enough job last year that they give it back to us. We also host our summer sports camp. That is, like I said before, 4th to 8th grade students in every sport that we offer at the high school level. So the goal is that when a kid sees a flyer hanging up in the hallway, that's not the first time they've heard of this. Like, they get a chance to, if they think maybe they want to wrestle, well, then go to the wrestling, summer camp. Or if you think you want to be a competitive dancer, go to that one. Right, so we're offering everything that we offer at that level so that students at least can have a bit of an experience with it before they have to decide whether they want to be on a team. And then our Athletic Hall of Fame is always it's a great event. I've heard so many great things about it. Last year was my first one, and I thought it went really well. I'm a sucker for a Hall of Fame, though. I've been in sports all my life, and I can't think of anything better than hearing somebody talk about how awesome it was like 20, 30 years ago. These things that they still think about right now, and this happened so many years ago. It also makes me happy about what I do because I know that I'm doing that for some kid right now. Like, there's some kid in high school that's going to be in the Hall of Fame 20 years from now, and they're going to be talking about something that I did, which is kind of cool. We also have a golf outing that we put on. I would say it's pretty internal in terms of it's our schools, our buildings go to this, our administrators, our staff attend this event. It's really a celebration for our people to talk about, athletics is hard work. Our ADs put in a lot of work, our principals put in a lot of work to make sure that sports get put on, and it's our chance to celebrate before the school year gets started well. And then our final one is the Golf Cup, and that's also for our students. So that's for girls and boys golf teams, and we put that on at the beginning of the season. Our girls team is a co-op, so it's actually one team, but our boys teams have 4 different teams, and they all do kind of different competitions. But it's really a time for the students to get together and just kind of have fun as a group together. Okay, so here are fun pictures. So Riesel is a Rockford Elementary Soccer League. So that's our elementary soccer league for 4th and 5th graders. And in all these pictures, you're going to see very fun, smiling faces of little kids, which is great. But there's always going to be like an adult there, too, who put in a whole bunch of time and a whole bunch of sweat and tears to make sure that all those kids got this opportunity. So that's look for all those things, too, beyond just the kids smiling and being really happy that they won. So that was last year's soccer champions. This was last year's REBA, which is our Rockford Elementary Basketball Association. Those are our 5th girls champions, 5th boys champions. And this is from this year, so this past winter. So girls basketball just got finished up. So Eisenhower won the 4A championship. And we've got, some of our middle schools are smaller. So we've also got Marshall who won as well because they're a smaller school. So they're the 3A champion. Kennedy won JV football. So I got to stop and talk about that a little bit because it's really exciting. They didn't even have football a couple of years ago. So the fact that they're able to put students out there, that's the reason that they were JV. They didn't have a varsity team. So hopefully next year, now that they've had a couple years to build and grow, they'll be able to have a varsity team. But this is really exciting to me, that a school, and Kennedy's not big, like, to get that many kids out for football is pretty exciting. And again, they're excited. They won a championship. So that's gonna get them excited. They're gonna have a sense of pride in that. They're gonna come back and play next year. And then for our high schoolers, like I said, we do activities as well. So Scholastic Bowl is one of our activities that we support. The IHSA supports at the high school level. Auburn won the Scholastic Bowl last year. And then we've got Cam Taylor, who's currently swimming at the University of Texas. And the reason he doesn't have a significant adult in this picture is because she's taking the picture. His mom was his swim coach. So he was a state champion last year for swimming. So we had a lot of really good success, things to be excited about. I think we made some good progress. And now, if y'all have any questions for me, I would love to answer them.
I'll go first, real quick. Athletics and extracurriculars are near and dear to my heart. I think that for some of our most at-risk scholars, that this is what keeps them in school, and it's so important, besides all the other things they're learning about being on a team and whatnot. I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
So my son was on the bowling team from 6th grade through high school. Now, when he was in the middle school program, I was told at that time that it was the largest middle school bowling program in the country.
Okay.
Can you verify that or no? Or so because the district is taking that over, I'm hoping that it will stay as robust as it has always been. It's big and it flows into 2 different centers, right? Because it's so big.
So my guess is yes, that there are a lot of students who compete, but I would also say I anticipate that it's going to grow. Because when we met with Brad, I'm sure you know Brad Summers over there, we met with him and he showed us where all the students were coming from. I would say there was a strong demographic divide with our schools. Some schools didn't have any students who were bowling, and some students had a whole ton of kids who were bowling. So now I think we're going to be able to equitably distribute the opportunity to bowl.
That's great. That's great. I'm so excited to hear that. Not only, but the kids will be able to be bused to practice, and before it was a crapshoot because it wasn't a sanctioned sport. Yeah. So that was my question about that. Also, the REBA tournament at the Sports Factory, is that going to happen again this year? Do you have dates for that?
Yes. So REBA dates are Wednesdays and Saturdays. So Wednesdays are in the buildings. That means like Hillman may host or, that kind of thing. Every Saturday from this Saturday, so the 20th through mid-February, the Saturdays are at the Sports Factory. All 60 teams are playing. I would encourage you to go. It's chaos in the best possible way. There's people everywhere. The parents are excited. Like, it's awesome. So yes, and if you go, one of the things we did this year was we really tried to upgrade our website. The website was not super informative at all before, so we've done, I think, a good job of putting stuff up there. So actually, if you go to our website and just go down to elementary athletics and activities, you'll see the whole schedule for Reba, and that's new.
Last year, there was a tournament, right? End of season tournament?
We do. Yeah, we're still having, culminating, tournament, yes.
Yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah, it's fun to watch.
I have a nephew playing. Does anyone else have any questions? Ms. Pearson?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Williams, for the work that you do and the role you play in our students' lives, scholars, as Dr. Reed is informing us, helping us with that. So I hear lots of conversation and questions around collaborative efforts with Rockford Park District. And what ways are we supporting our students who also participate in the Rockford Park District sports, and how can we showcase them more?
Well, I will say, what we do with elementary, I would say especially, is very contingent on the Park District. We use their facilities for soccer, and we use their facilities for basketball. So they're essential to what we do. I will also say we talk to them. The reason there's not junior NBA during Reba season is because we talk to each other. So they do it before us and they'll do it after us. That way we're not competing for the same children. That way we're not competing for officials, just all of the things that you need in order to actually have an event. We're able to work together to make that sort of thing happen. I'm certainly open to whatever else. If you've got some ideas about how we could collaborate better with the Park District, I think we work pretty well with them. Like I said, I don't know that we could do what we're doing at the level that we're doing it without the Park District.
Okay, well, I think that you're doing an awesome job, in my opinion, in terms of collaborative efforts. I guess to be more specific, how can we showcase our students that are involved in the Rockford Park District? And you don't have to have an answer for this tonight. It's just food for thought, and how we can showcase them more and recognize them more, and as an inclusive effort along with our mainstream students within the district.
No, I like it. Well, and I'm sure y'all heard they just got this new facility approved, football stadium and track. So I think there's going to be a lot more opportunities for us to work together with them.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I don't have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I don't have a question, but just a statement. This is really exciting, and I'm happy that you presented this information tonight. Really excited that the bowling team is being expanded, as well as chess. So that's really great for students to get involved, and I just can't wait to get out there and see what's going on.
Awesome, thank you.
Ms. McCall?
Thank you for your presentation today. I'm very excited about the future of RPS athletics and the athletics department. I just have one question or statement as far as in regards to the officials. What kind of support do you guys provide to officials? I know they have some, time of they have a task, a big task at hand. They're with the students, and they can hear some of the chatter and things, and sometimes it can be a little uncomfortable, for them to officiate, these games and stuff. So I'm just curious to know what type of supports are put in place to help assistant officials be their best.
I feel like I could give a sermon on officials, because we can't do anything. We can't do anything that we do in terms of sports without officials. And this is one of the things we talk to our students about, we talk to our coaches about, we talk to our families about. As unhappy as you may be with what an official is doing, if they're not there, then we don't get to do this at all. So, and that's where PCA comes in, the Positive Coaching Alliance. They do a really nice job of educating people, like I said, kind of about their role in the grand scheme of athletics. And ideally, parents aren't hollering out from the stands. Ideally, students aren't, getting at the officials, but we do know that it happens. Officials always have the right to get rid of anyone who they feel isn't behaving appropriately. And then it's our job, our meaning the athletic directors in the buildings, to take care of that, right? So if an official says, okay, you've got to get out of here, that's then the athletic director's job to handle that for the official. Ideally, we don't get to that point where we're having to remove people from competitions, but that is there. But that's why you staff it with people, to make sure that we can keep everything under control, so that ideally, right, in an ideal world, that we don't have these issues. Because again, the officials are the lifeblood of sports. Like, there's really nothing we can do without them. But yeah, so that's what we do. Ideally, the buildings have enough people there to manage the crowd, so that we're able to hopefully keep the officials from having to remove people from competitions.
Okay, yep, that's great. I'm speaking more in terms of just officials not managing the crowd, but just managing themselves as a group of officials, okay, and the things that they come across as they're handling each games. So say that there's a game and they can tell that the teams are, a bit agitated maybe with each other, or they can tell that it's some of the crowd is agitating some of the players. Like, what type of supports are in place to help those officials feel that they feel supported, okay, so yeah, there's chatter about some type of argument or something that's going to come, so I can reach out to so-and-so and they can, handle it or whatever, and then I can focus on officiating the game.
So certainly officials are trained. We don't do the training for the officials, but they have training on that sort of thing. Whenever an official walks into a building, the first thing the AD is, they give them kind of the rundown. It might be that this is going to be a spicy game. This is going to be a tough competition. It's going to be close. Just keep your eye on it. You know what I mean? So you can give them, if you know ahead of time, and most times the athletic directors do know when things are going on. Officials can end games early. Officials can say, even if they finish the game, they can say, okay, we're not doing handshake lines, because sometimes that gets a little crazy after a hard-fought game. So they have tools in their tool belt that they come with. Like, they're already trained with their officials, a signer, who gives them all that training and everything. And we're certainly their partner with that. And we're going to let them know. Unless we just don't know about it, we're not going to let them walk into a situation where maybe there's something going on in the crowd, or maybe there's something going on between the players on the court. We're going to make sure that they understand what's going on.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to echo Ms. Stanford's comments about how important sports are to our scholars, and thank you for your work. For the elementary, Riesel and Reba, those coaches are parent volunteers, is that right, mostly, or?
We found out that there is an assortment of assignments. So some people are parent volunteers. Some people have a person in the building who they've given a stipend to, who's going to be a coach. I would say that's an area that isn't as streamlined as we would love it to be.
Okay, thanks. That's interesting. Thank you. Well, and I just want to thank especially the volunteers, but also, all the coaches are putting in a lot of time, and whatever the stipend is, per hour is not very much, so.
Any other questions?
I have one last question, I'm sorry. So, and this thought came to me when Vice President McCall was speaking. So are the officials trained in de-escalation or get training in de-escalation, do you know?
Now that I don't know, but I can find out.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Thank
I can
you.
find out for you.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you all.
Hi, Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Wolf, and I am the new Director of Fine Arts here at RPS. I was a faculty member here at RPS for 18 years, and I'm homegrown. I went through Rockford Public Schools as a fine arts and performing arts student, so I have a lot of stake in this game as well. Thanks for being a part of our presentation tonight. I'm going to walk you through our major content areas for fine arts and highlight some of our successes that we've had at the elementary, middle, and high school level. And then I'm going to brief you on some upcoming events before I open the floor to questions. So in our visual arts department, as far as elementary school is concerned, our faculty is navigating a new curriculum. I had the opportunity to be a part of their professional learning community last month and really hear some viable feedback. Some of the teachers have utilized it more than others, but the fact that it's a digital learning platform that is giving the students an opportunity for digital work in addition to the paperwork has been really beneficial as we're moving further and further into technology. So that was an overall great comment of success. As far as middle school is concerned, we are partnering with the Rockford Area Arts Council to do a special spring mural middle school visual arts project that will be out in the public for all RPS and Rockford residents to enjoy. And high school, we had a lot of AP students recognized at NIU for their annual invitational. And we decided to highlight the Olson Gallery High School Art Invitational at Northern Illinois University. And one of our students, senior Maya Hildebrand from Jefferson High School, won Best in Show. She's standing next to her piece of art. And that also included a $9,000 NIU scholarship for her, which was wonderful. There were other students from 3 other RPS high schools, and they represented their art as well. We had Roosevelt with Dyson White. We had Auburn, Jade Stone, and Miriam Basom. And then at Jefferson, we had a lot from Jefferson. I can't see that far, really. I should have my glasses on. So we had Miley Sagala, Erica Pelos Ponce, Emily Chavez, and Maya Hildebrand. So they all represented RPS. And that's what we've got going on for visual arts at the elementary, middle, and high school level. When we move on to music, something that was cool that was already highlighted at the beginning of the meeting is we are having our inaugural year of our 5th grade band, and that has been nothing short of a success story. I wish I could have taken more pictures for you and shown you. The line was down the hallway for parents and supporters to get in to see their very first concert right before our holiday break. We had over 40 students participate in our program, and it's being hosted once a week at Eisenhower Middle School by our elementary and middle school teachers, Dave Bartell, Dennis Meacham, and Max Medlock. This is just a really important endeavor that we're embarking on because it's going to help build up our music programs again. Because of COVID and in the last 5 years in general, with academies being established, we've seen our numbers dwindle in our performing arts, both music and theater, and the fact that we now are going to be able to have students with a capacity to already come into middle school means that we will have more seasoned high school students and less beginning band students, and that's just a great thing. So middle school, Thurgood Marshall Middle School instrumental musicians selected. That is really neat. We do a district competition every single year where our middle school and high school instrumental and vocal audition for a big festival in DeKalb. And we had 2 students from Thurgood Marshall that were representing this year for the first time at the middle school level, which was great. We also had high school students, but Thurgood Marshall specifically went and represented RPS, which was wonderful. And then we also had our West Kappa Choir perform with the Rockford Symphony Orchestra at their Holiday Pops concert, which was sold out. And it was led by Marty Bine. She performed, she led her Kappa students at West, or from West. And they also performed with the Nielsen Chorale and the Northern Illinois University musicians. And that was on December 16th. Theater, that's my wheelhouse. I'm a theater teacher. We have a series of fine arts events called the All City Events that happen annually in RPS 205. Theater has taken a break from presenting theirs and participating theirs in the spring, and we've knocked it back to the fall, and this is our second year that we've gone to Northern Illinois University and partnered with their professors and their theater department for a day of workshops for our students. Our students have had the opportunity to participate in both performance and technical theater workshops put on by college professors and graduate students, and then we were treated to a main stage performance this summer, or excuse me, this fall. It was A Midsummer Night's Dream, and we took 125 students to NIU, and they all got the opportunity to be on a college campus for a day and interact with professors. Jefferson High School is doing something that is really awesome as well. They are reaching out to their feeder elementary schools. They've skipped right over their middle school and went right to the elementary school level, and they put on a children's readers theater. And they pick a different theme every single year. Last year it was Greek mythology. This year it was fairy tales, and the advanced theater students write 10-minute scripts and perform that for second grade classes that come in. There were 5 second grade schools that came in to see Jefferson and their Readers Theater, and it is always a really fun and exciting event. I brought my second grader this year, and she loved it. And the last thing is something that actually happened this weekend. It was supposed to be something I was going to talk about, but now I'll be able to talk about the success. Every year, all 4 high schools participate at the Illinois High School Theater Festival. One year it's at U of I, one year it's at ISU, but it's 3 days where our 4 high school theater teachers take students to a college campus where they, again, can participate in workshops and see performances from other Illinois high schools. There's one giant all-state production, and most importantly and most successfully, our senior students have the opportunity to audition for National Collegiate Theater programs right at the festival. So if you can kind of imagine a speed dating round where people go, that's kind of what they do as far as their auditions are concerned. They have a panel of over 30 National Collegiate Theater programs, and they do their audition pieces, or they have an interview right there, and then later that day they are already getting offers for admission and scholarships, which is really cool. This year we had a record. There were 32 collegiate theater programs that were represented at Theater Fest, and one of our seniors walked away with 22 offers. So that was pretty exciting for all of us. Here's some successes that have happened in the fall since I've been here. We have an official partnership with our Phantom Regiment in Rockford. We are going to partner with them, and they are going to offer us a brass camp for all of our middle and high school students who play a brass instrument, also a percussion camp. So that's all, that doesn't just include drums, that includes anything that would be in a pit orchestra area. And we are also going to have a color guard camp, and they are also donating instruments to us, which is great. I've been on many a Zoom call with them already, and there's a lot of ideas formulating, and we're really excited to further this partnership with them. In December, we had 16 RPS schools present holiday music programs just in the first 2 weeks. So that was very exciting to see that arts, both visual art as well as music, were being showcased in our schools. And something that is really near and dear to my heart is the fact that PD has been offered to all 3 content areas of fine arts this year, which is wonderful. In partnership with our curriculum department and Mr. Epperson, he was able to make available and partner with the fine arts department so that theater teachers could participate in PD, and we have music teachers who went to the Music Education Foundation conference, and then we have visual art teachers who are going to the national conference in Minneapolis. One thing about fine arts is that sometimes it's really hard to find professional development in our area. We have lots of professional theater companies and music ensembles here, but we're a small circuit. and we know each other well, and we work together. So we're constantly looking to expand our professional development and see what new things and what new tricks we can put in our bags. And having the opportunity to be able to attend these PDs is very beneficial for us. So we were super excited to be able to offer that to all of our teachers this year. There were 5 successful main stage theatrical productions mounted in the fall and winter at Guilford, East, Jefferson, Auburn, and West Middle School. And we do have one 2024 top 20 Golden Apple finalist in the fine arts, and that's Beth Austin from Guilford High School. Yay, that's right. So we have a lot of upcoming events as well. March has been deemed Fine Arts Month, and we do fine arts all year, but it's going to hit us heavy in March. But these are some of the things that RPS is going to be doing for second semester in 2024. We have a Cirque Mechanics RPS 4th grade student giant presentation at the Coronado, where all of the 4th graders from RPS 205 get to go to experience a theatrical production at the Coronado Theater. Our middle schoolers are doing an all-day workshop series. Our middle school music students are doing an all-day workshop series. Our high school students are doing a visual art workshop series. Our band students at the high school level are doing a workshop series. And we are also participating in the secondary visual arts gallery walk that will be at 304 Main this year. And all of the dates are listed, but that is also on our Fine Arts RPS website as well. And then one of the things that Don was excited to talk about, that I am too, is that we are continuing with the Fine Arts Hall of Fame. We have 4 amazing inductees this year, and our induction ceremony and our celebration will take place on May 10th. Our recipients this year are from West High School, Guilford High School, and Auburn High School. All of our recipients this year were students of RPS who have gone to achieve great things in the fine arts community rather than teachers. So that was something really fun. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Do you have any questions or comments at this time?
Any questions?
Again, no questions, but I am a huge supporter of the arts education, and I'm glad to see that we do have a vibrant opportunities in our school district, as well as professional development opportunities for staff. I say that because there are tremendous opportunities in art, not only nationally, but internationally. Study abroad programs for our students to consider once they get into college. So I'm glad that we have such broad offerings throughout RPS 205.
Agreed.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
Thank you. And I agree with Ms. Haley's comments about the importance of arts. Are there any theatrical productions in the spring?
There are many theatrical productions in the spring. I just didn't have enough room. I just wanted to keep it all on one. Those will all be on the Fine Arts page of the RPS website, yes. But there are at least 5 that are scheduled right now.
Okay, thanks. I was just asking, or going to ask about publicizing those. So great, thank you.
In the works.
Ms. McCall?
I echo what all the other board members have said as well. Additionally, I'm just curious to know if there's any type of partnerships or opportunities for students to visit some of the local community colleges and colleges as far as their theater production part. You know, we have the great Starlight Theater at Rock Valley College that puts on, fantastic shows every year, and then during the summer. Like, is there some type of maybe not a feeder or something, but some type of partnership or opportunities for students to see how the production is on like the bigger stages?
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you asked that question. Last year, Starlight Theater at Rock Valley College started Camp Supernova, which was a theater camp that both elementary and middle school kids could be a part of. And even though it was a camp where you had to pay a fee, a fee can be waived. We are expanding that this year and partnering with RPS for that. And we are going to be able to have a high school section of that as well. So students are able to get on the stage. They're able to not touch tools, but look at tools that help build sets, etc. Learn from professional choreographers as well as designers and performance professionals. And we do have a really big pool of people from RPS, both performance and tech-wise, that are from RPS. Our music teachers populate the live pit orchestras at the Starlight shows every year. And we have our theater teachers working backstage. We have current students and alumni that are on the stage. Additionally, we've talked a lot with NIU and Rockford University, partnering with the Pathway to Education, or the Education Pathway, and the Rockford Promise Scholarship. And their professors, both in the music, or not both, in the visual arts department, the theater departments, and the music departments are now specifically seeking out RPS students at things like the Illinois High School Theater Festival, at the NIU Invitational, so they can just further that opportunity for our students, which has been super awesome.
And if I can add, we had an instructional council, I think it was in October, we approved a course for our CAPA students to help prepare them to audition, whether they're still in high school or post-secondary. So as a part of that course, they're going to build their portfolio, and they're going to be working with Director of Starlight, Chris Brady, on that content. And that started from a simple question of Mr. Brady asking some of our CAPA teachers what we do to prepare them, and that made us go, maybe not enough. So they'll have a new course that will support them.
Okay, that is great. And I may need to take that course. I'm thinking about auditioning for some.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just had one other question regarding the 5th grade band at Eisenhower, and students are able to participate from across all high schools. Is there transportation available for them?
That I do not know if there is transportation. I know it has been offered to every single elementary school student, whether or not, they have a specialty music program in their building like Marshall or Barber, or if they are just a general education school. I can find out for you about that. I did see all of the parents and supporters bringing their students to the performance, but I'm not sure about transportation. I can get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
I see I have 9 minutes, so I'll talk really fast. Here we go. Okay. On Wednesday, December 6th, RPS added an electric vehicle to its driver's education program at 3 high schools. This will give students a chance to learn to drive both gas-powered and electric vehicles. This was made possible by RPS's partnership with ComEd that gave the district $100,000 to purchase 3 Kia Niro electric vehicles and Blink Level 2 chargers for Jefferson, East, and Auburn high schools. The district hopes to win future grants to buy electric vehicles for Guilford High School and Roosevelt as well. On November 15th, select high school theater students spent a day at NIU, as we just heard, attending performance and technical theater workshops presented by the NIU Performing Arts facility. Students were then treated to a performance of the NIU Fall main stage production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. We finish our deck with the board calendar, reminding board members of the many opportunities available to interact with our students, families, and community each month. Make sure you check your calendar on a regular basis. And if any board member has anything to share regarding any school events you've attended or any interactions you've had at the community, this would be the time. Ms. McCall.
I would just like to highlight on this past Saturday, I was able to attend the Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated Martin Luther King Jr. Breakfast and oratorical contest. The students, there were several from Auburn, but there was 5 students total, and they were young men. And the messages that they gave, the speeches were just outstanding. It was a very great experience. It happens annually, and every year I'm more and more charged with, helping out the community in ways that I do. Also, some students were telling me about, baseball? Not baseball, football team, the girls' football team, I think came second place or something in the state. I forgot that one, but throughout this past winter break, I was able to just attend a lot of different things. I was skating, and I would see students at the, I wasn't skating. I went to the skating place. I'm still recovering. I'm still recovering from a broken ankle. But students, it was good to see students out having a good time, enjoying some of the things that we have here in Rockford for them to enjoy. And again, I'm just amazed, and I'm very proud of the caliber of students that we are producing here at RPS 205. And that's it.
Mr. Carpenter?
Thank you. I went to a couple events. Yesterday, I went to the Martin Luther King Day community celebration, and that included performance by Kappa dancers at West, which was great. And there were also a couple other students that presented from Lincoln and Whitehead, or they were singing actually, so that was great. And then I was proud to see those RPS students presenting and performing at that event. I also went to an event at East at the end of December for the newcomer program at East, which was called My Favorite Molecule. So it's newcomer students learning chemistry and learning English at the same time, and doing one-on-one presentations about molecules. And so they're, this is like pretty, I don't know, it's advanced language, I guess, for students who are new to English. And there were students from, I wrote them down, Uganda, Tanzania, Syria, Congo, Thailand, Afghanistan, Rwanda, Malawi. And it was pretty interesting and exciting to see how much work they put into their projects, and all the work that the faculty did to get them ready for that. So I just wanted to recognize that. And Dr. Jarrett was there at the newcomers event also, so that was good to see him.
Ms. McCall?
Okay, I forgot one thing. Just want to make a mention for the it's a TV show called We Are Family or something. It comes on Fox, I think. I don't know. I watch it on Hulu. And there were, it's where you have to guess the family members of famous people. And so we had our own RPS 205 class of 1997 Auburn High School graduate, Michelle Williams, was the star, and she had her cousin, Evandia Penix, and she was singing at the on the show. So you guys can go to Hulu and check out some of those previous Kappa members performing on the national stage. So that was a very good show to watch, and just check it out on there. It's called We Are Family, and you'll see some people from Rockford.
Thanks for saying that. I'm going to check that out. That sounds great. Anyone else? Okay, that's it for our report.
Thank you, Ms. Stanford. We would now have Mr. Carpenter lead the Performance and Monitoring Committee portion of the meeting.
Thank you, Madam President. Tonight we have 3 reports from the administration, which include our semi-annual update from our ARP ESSER spending, a report on the administration's teacher recruitment strategies, and the annual Standards of Service report. And first, Dr. Brown will lead us through the ARP ESSER report.
Okay, so this is our semi-annual update of the all the CARES Act, ESSER 2, and ARP ESSER spending. So we'll just jump right to it here. So these were kind of the three big factors going into all the COVID money that the district was going to receive. And so extending time, which you've heard a lot about with growing the community partnerships. Maureen did a nice job summarizing those last month. Improving facilities, operations, ITIS. You've heard a lot about all the construction projects that we've been doing, and then renewing, supporting, and developing staff with PD, some of which you've heard about over the last couple of years. So this is really just kind of the 6-month status report that we're going to give you guys. And it starts off with just kind of a reminder of what the three big buckets of money were. The initial one was the CARES Act that came out right away when the pandemic started. We got about $11.7 million there. The second tranche of money was $67 million for ESSER 2. And then ARP ESSER was the big one that came out in the summer of 2021, $156 million. So this is just a summary of how the CARES Act was actually spent. This one has closed out now, and you will see that not all the money was spent. About 2/3 of it was non-public school money that didn't get spent by some of the schools that we distributed money to. We did have a little bit of money that we were not able to use in those categories there. This one had some restrictions on it, and we just didn't have things that fit in the buckets of money. So there was about $30,000 roughly that we weren't able to spend out of the CARES Act. ESSER 2, you can see there the amount that was awarded, again, $67 million. As of 11/30, which is just November 30th of this past year, we had $66,635,000 of that one spent. The remaining $445,000 was spent during the month of December. We did close that out, and we spent literally every dollar of the ESSER 2 money that we had available. So that one's done, and that one's closed out. The one that we're working on right now is ARP ESSER. You can see where we're at on that one. These are the categories here. I'm going to skip to the next page because the totals are actually there. You can see again the $157+ million. As of November, we had spent about $77 million of that. We had $80 million left to go. We're not going to have any trouble spending that money either. We have really all that money committed. The learning loss strategy is a very important part of ARP ESSER. And there was a 20% set aside of the $150+ million that was required to be spent on learning loss. And so this is a summary of the programs that were used to meet the learning loss requirement. You can see in the middle column there, the amount paid through 11/30 was $22 million. We've got about $13.8 million left to go. There's not going to be any problem with us meeting that required 20% minimum. So there will not be any clawback on the construction money. So we're going to be fine on that too, and we'll have no problem spending the ARP ESSER money that the district was awarded. So a couple of the slides in here, I'll really just talk about some of the components of the learning loss. You can see the number of students that were served by some of the things that we put in place. Paper was one of the things that was put in place to provide some online resources to students outside of the school day. Dial Care was one that was put in place to help with some social emotional supports. That one really didn't get a lot of traction with the students. Rosecrans, which has been a big part of actually being in the buildings with Rosecrans personnel actually serving our students. A lot of students being served by that. Star 360 and then Panorama Ed are just some online tools that you've heard us talk more and more about on how we're using it to track student performance. The Live, Learn, Play, I won't go into a lot of detail here because Maureen really covered this well, at the last meeting. So this is really just kind of a summary of the major partners and where the money's getting spent. Several slides there on those. And those have gone well. We've paid out about $2.238 million through November 30th. A big chunk of that's going to come the rest of this year, and we've actually got until September to be able to spend the rest of this money. So, we've still got kind of a long lead on this one. We've got another 8 months of spending left to go. This was one, we just left it in here so you guys could know how we ended up this one. This was the vaccine strategy that was originally a part of it. We ended up distributing about 647,000 for gift cards for students that were able to get vaccinated and chose to do so. Obviously, the air quality strategy, that's been a big part of what we're doing here. You know, by the time these projects wrap up next summer and into, you know, September, you know, we will have air conditioning in all the buildings, which is just a huge project for us to be able to complete. Improving facilities operations, ITIS, I won't read all that, but this is really kind of the construction schedule that we're finishing up. You can see the work that we did finish in the summer of 2023. Some of the stuff we started this summer, but we'll finish next year. We will be able to get all these projects done. Mike has promised me that these will wrap up by September of next year, so we don't leave any money on the table. You can see here the original estimated budgets for the facility plans, $170 million worth of work. Total costs, you know, we have spent, again, all the SR2. These were as of November 30th, but we did have all those dollars committed and spent. We will get all the ARP-ESSER done as well. And then we were able to, because of some change orders early on in the project, we were able to save a little bit of money. And so now at the end of the project here, we've actually been able to add some improvements back into 4 schools. So that are really just HVAC upgrades there because those schools already did have air conditioning. So we're able to replace some equipment there that was much needed. Transportation, you know, this really talks about the strategy we were using there. This really focused a lot on trying to pick up kids that were within 1.5 miles of their school zone that ordinarily wouldn't qualify for transportation. And then we also did spend a significant amount of money, you know, with early childhood education too, providing that to students that otherwise may not have been able to get to school. And that is it. Questions on spending $200+ million? It's a lot easier to do than you think. All right.
I do have a question. On the $30,000 that we were not able to spend, can you give me some examples of the restrictions and what we...
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest with you. That was actually right before I got here, but I'm happy to look at that and see,
sure, no
see what
problem.
we weren't able to spend it on.
And on slide 11, the dial care, can you speak a little bit more to that and remind me of how we communicate? That was, so we spent $156,000, or no, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to turn that one over to Ms. Detman.
Yeah. For dial care, we communicate directly with students. So in bathrooms, in hallways, across the school, there are posters. Every school counselor has pamphlets. Social workers have pamphlets. We did several social media pushes when we first got dial care. As a reminder, dial care is virtual counseling services for students, but very few students have really taken advantage of it. And the feedback really that we've gotten so far is that students don't want virtual counseling. They really want someone in person with them. And so that has been difficult. And I think the other issue is it's on the student to really make that connection as opposed to having an adult refer them. So dial care was something that we felt like we really needed sort of post-COVID. That was one of our major concerns, was our students' access to mental health care. And we don't feel like this really was the right solution to reach them where they are.
Now that you mention that, I remember seeing in school visits some like little 8x10.
Yeah, they're everywhere, and they're in multiple languages. There's been a real effort to really get this information into students' hands through multiple avenues.
I think this is an opportunity for us to kind of hone in a little more on communicating with our students and finding out what their needs and desires are. I think this is a perfect example of how we make decisions, whether it is based on data or a good idea that may not necessarily be the best for the students that we serve.
Yeah, I agree. I think this was immediately in the middle of COVID when we were trying to sort of predict what we thought students needed. We did get some student feedback. We had them present, they submitted Flipgrid videos. I don't know if anybody remembers this. It was actually one of my favorite things that we did during COVID to try to stay connected with kids. And we did ask them, what do you need? And a lot of it was around just having someone to talk to, someone to stay connected with. So we made an effort with these grant dollars to ask, like, is this what students need? Now, on the flip side of that, we also provided in-person support through our Rosecrans behavior specialists. And we have found in those 14 schools this year, I mean, they are serving nearly 800 students, and they are creating relationships. They have ongoing connectedness. We're actually having the BHSAPs also make connections with the families and continue those services through Rosecrans at the Ware Center. So those in-person touch points have been much more successful and valuable than we predicted that a virtual would be.
I think just to add to that, I think that's also the difference between if a student is meeting with a Rosecrans counselor, for example, and already has a relationship and then does virtual sessions versus your initial interaction is virtual before you have rapport built, and then it's not necessarily successful to do it the other way around for them because they're small. So.
I had a question, Dr. Brown. On the HVAC upgrades, I know there was some delays on some schools that were scheduled to get finished this summer, and then they were pushed back because of supply chain issues, I guess. Did those get finished?
We did get those done, within the liquidation period. So there was a timing issue on the receipt of a couple pieces of equipment. I think we had a chiller or something we were still waiting on until October, Mike.
Correct. So we had chillers at East, Washington, and Lincoln that we were waiting on, but we received all of them and everything was installed. We didn't get things at East and Washington fired up until very late in the fall, so it didn't really serve us in September when we needed it, but we did make the dates needed to close things out.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Dr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Haley.
I just have a question regarding the transportation. I don't know if I'm missing it. Are the cost of the transportation?
Yeah, the cost is not on here. It might be actually in one of these other sheets. Let me just look real quick.
Slide 10, I think.
Yep. We had a budget of $8.3 million.
Okay. And that's gonna, we'll still be able to transport those students throughout this school year?
Yes, throughout this school year, correct. Yep.
All right, thank you.
If there's no other questions, thank you, Dr. Brown. And next, Dr. Reed will report on the district's teacher recruitment strategies.
Picked up the wrong mic up here. All righty, so I'm thankful for this opportunity. I know at Rockford, sometimes we get really hard on ourselves because we really care about how we impact our scholars. That's everybody in our district. I really believe that we want to impact our scholar on a daily basis. So this presentation is kind of like more of a celebration of our policies, our practice, our board, and Dr. Jared's forward thinking. We are really innovative when it comes to recruiting and retaining. I was on a call with the LUDA conference, and we were talking about one thing, and they went totally different. They wanted to know about, hey, what are you guys doing with recruiting? How are you guys doing that? The universities are all talking about us. We are the premier place for where you go to find out how to do this recruiting and retaining. Many people want to see our draft board. I remember I got scared. I said, hey, Dr. Jarrett, all the districts are calling, and they want to know what we're doing. They want to know the recipe. And Dr. Jarrett said, hey, look, calm down. Go ahead and give it to them. Everybody can have the recipe, but they don't got the cooks, so don't worry. So I'm going to turn it over to the main cook. He's going to talk about some of the things we're doing here.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. All right, I got to put on my cheaters here. Don't get old. I recommend not getting old. It's horrible. All right, so I think a lot of us, or many of us, know the narrative around teacher recruitment in Rockford Public Schools. Internally within our district and externally, and even internally in some of our buildings, the narrative has always been we don't do much to recruit teachers. And I can tell you that could not be further from the truth. What we do a really good job of is doing the work. What we don't do a very good job is talking about and celebrating the work. So today, what I wanted to do was give the board just kind of a highlight of some of the things we're doing to provide you some tools so when you're out speaking with community members and you're out speaking with people in our schools about the work that's being done. So that's really the goal of today. So I want to highlight some of the things we're doing and then also show a little bit of what's on the horizon. So I'm going to start out by just kind of reading a quote from Dr. Jason Klein at Northern Illinois University. He is the Director of Learning Partnerships of NIU and the P20 Network. And this is his words on the work being done in Rockford Public Schools. Every district, including the most well-resourced in the state, has significant concerns about the educator pipeline. While we are lucky enough to work with school districts across Illinois, there is no other school district doing more or in more creative ways than Rockford Public Schools. RPS is leading the charge to recruit teachers and administrators from near and far, and from their creative efforts to partner with community to identify prospective educators, as well as to support student teachers and new teachers. Over the course of 2023, we have further extended our partnership with RPS and Rockford generally, including Rock Valley College, the YMCA of Rock River Valley, and the Wabongo Leadership Council, with our efforts to develop a new official Grow Your Own Illinois consortium in Rockford. While the RISE program is an exciting addition to RPS' portfolio of educator pipeline efforts, the work that has taken place in developing the program has been symbolic of RPS's ongoing efforts. RPS has been collaborative, creative, focused on community needs, and ultimately with a consistent laser-like aim on supporting students and their learning. While school districts are increasingly focused on actively impacting the educator pipeline, we hold up Rockford Public Schools' work as the gold standard. So kind of want to start out in talking about what our recruitment strategy is. And our recruitment strategy over the last 2 years has been very focused on building and maintaining intentional relationships. That starts with the students in our schools, with the staff in our building, with students at the universities that we work with, and then also with our community members. So as many of you might know, becoming a teacher is very difficult. It's a cumbersome process, the path is complex, and often there are many barriers that get in the way of people being successful. So we try to really work with our students, with our staff members, and with community members that have been identified as prospective good teachers, and really try to help them navigate that path, eliminate those barriers, and ultimately try to get them into Rockford Public School classrooms. And that has been our focus over the last several years. And with building and maintaining those relationships, we've been able to build a pretty robust network of current and even a larger network of future teachers for Rockford Public Schools. So I'm going to start out talking a little bit about the RU Pathway and the NIU LEAP program, because those are two programs that have been kind of our benchmark that I feel most people are pretty familiar with. So our Rockford University Education Pathway that is tailored towards our high school students, and then the NIU LEAP program, which is tailored towards our student support staff that are in student support positions like paraprofessionals, parent community liaisons. Those have been our two benchmark programs for a few years, and we are really starting to see the return on that investment come back to the district. So those two programs combined for the 23-24 school year have produced 35 classroom teachers for Rockford Public Schools. The RU Pathway has another 40 students that will be entering RPS classrooms within the next 2 years. So a really robust pipeline of students that have come through our district and are now coming back to teach in our community. On top of that, those two programs have kind of set a benchmark for us to launch into these other programs. So the work that we've done with LEAP and the pathway has allowed us to start to build out other pathways for our staff and our students. So I want to transition into the Diverse Male Teacher Initiative. So this started at a conversation that Representative Maurice West and I had about 2 years ago. I'd reached out to Representative West in an effort to partner together to figure out how we can get more men of color going into RPS classrooms and in education in general. So when we build out our Grow Your Own initiatives that we fund internally, one of the major obstacles that we've come across for many candidates in our school system, when I say school system, our staff that are wanting to become educators, is that associate's degree. That has been a common barrier for people to get into some of our GYO pathways. Many of these initiatives require an associate's degree for entry because you're going to need that 60 credits to start on those accelerated pathways. So Representative West and I were discussing some different ways that we could potentially pull some community resources in to help our staff get their associate's degree. And through that conversation, he partnered me with GYO Illinois, who had just launched the DMTI initiative. And the DMTI initiative is a 50-seat statewide cohort designed to get more men of color to enter the classroom. They provide scholarship dollars and cohort support for men of color seeking their associate's degree who then would go into some of the other programs that we sponsor. We were initially offered 2 seats in the 50-seat statewide cohort. And I have to highlight the men in that picture up there right now. So if you look at that picture on the top right corner, those are all men working in our buildings doing phenomenal work. Because of the engagement and excitement we had around the DMTI program and the quality of our candidates, they accepted all 10. We went from 2 seats to 10 seats in that 50-seat statewide cohort. So Rockford Public Schools has 20% of the seats across the state. As those men transition out of the program and into other programs, we will maintain those 10 seats for other staff in our district. And then we're also working with men in the community who might want to pursue that kind of option in an effort to bring them into Rockford Public Schools for one of our support positions, and then hopefully get them into the DMTI program. So that program has been outstanding. It's been great to see the success of that and looking forward to that further growth. And if you know those men and you see them in our buildings, congratulate them. I want to then transition into the NIU RISE program. So this is a new elementary ed cohort that we are launching this fall. So I'll be bringing this to board here in March or April. We're finalizing a few details on the contract now, but this is modeled after our LEAP program. It's an accelerated pathway. So the LEAP program focuses solely on special ed. We have a lot of future educators in our district that special ed necessarily isn't their path, but they're more interested in elementary ed. Elementary ed is also an area where every year we have multiple vacancies. So we've partnered with Northern Illinois University and GYO again to create an elementary ed cohort that is an accelerated format for staff members and student support positions. They'll be able to continue to function in the schools during the day supporting schools. They'll be taking classes at NIU through an accelerated format at NIU at night, and they'll be entering RPS classrooms by 2026 as certified elementary ed teachers. What really makes this program special is we've brought in several community partners from around the Rockford area to help us develop this because we want these teachers ready to teach in Rockford specifically. So this is not part of the general elementary ed track at NIU. These courses have been designed to tailor towards Rockford Public School needs. So I want to thank several key stakeholders in the community that helped us design this. The YMCA of the Rock River Valley, Brent Prentenberg, Cameron Muhammad, and Michael Goodlow. The Wabongo Leadership Council, Matt Simpson, Anquinette Parham, and Gabrielle Torina. Sorry, I drew a blank there for a minute. We all kind of came together in a collaborative effort to design this coursework, and 3 of the electives in this cohort will be designed for Rockford specifically. So there is a course, if you look at the teacher recruitment outcomes page here, on the back side, the Saturday elective courses will include the socioeconomic and historical context of the Rockford community, a class on Rockford community leadership, and a class on connecting with Rockford community families. And NIU will be bringing in members of the Rockford community to teach those courses. They will not be led by just regular NIU staff. They're bringing in Rockford community members to lead that coursework, so it's very specific to the needs of our district. So this will be a 25-seat cohort. We started soliciting applicants in our district. We've already got 40 interested staff members that have started the application process, and I look forward to bringing that to you in a few months. Next, I want to talk about our Central State University partnership. So this is a partnership with a regional historically black college in Ohio that we've been able to really build a strong two-way partnership with over the last 2 years. The focus is on creating a pathway for our students as an educational opportunity for them after high school, and for Rockford Public Schools to be able to seed as a premier district for their students to come and teach. So I can tell you the buzz on Central State about Rockford Public Schools is there. Dr. Reed and I are on campus quite a bit. I visit the campus 3 to 4 times a year. I get the opportunity to go meet with students, speak at some of their classes. We host their students here in the spring each year, so we're looking forward to that again. When you go on campus, they talk about Rockford Public Schools. The professors in their building are encouraging their students to think about our aspiring teacher program. It's really exciting. The last career fair we were at, there was several districts from the Chicago area. Several of their members came up to me and said, what is Rockford Public Schools doing? Every student we talk to just wants to go to RPS. How are you guys so entrenched here? And it's really, again, about those relationships. We've really focused on building the relationships and trying to create value for their students. And that's why that spring trip that we do, I think, is really important. So it's not just going and talking to their students. Last spring in March, we brought 25 of their education majors to the district for 2 days. We did a very whirlwind tour of the district and a little bit of the city for 2 days. Ms. Haley, I know you came in and welcomed the students when they came into Cherry Valley that morning. Thank you. This year, we're changing that just a little bit. So as great as that trip was, some of the feedback we got is you really can't experience everything that we have to offer in 2 days. And it was a lot packed into a little bit of time. So what we're doing is we're lowering the amount of students. We're going from 25 to 8. We're going to bring 8 students in, 8 students that are in their junior year that are preparing to student teach next year, and they're going to spend a week here in the district in March. It's going to be a very intensive experience across a lot of our buildings. They're going to spend time in our aspiring teacher classrooms. They're going to spend time with our cabinet, with administration. The curriculum team is going to give them a deep dive on what it takes to really build a strong curriculum for the elementary level. And they're going to spend a week here with the hopes that several of them come back and student teach with us next year. Currently, we have 3 students from Central State that came on that trip last year that are in our aspiring teacher program. We have one that spent half the year at Guilford and is spending the other half of the year at West. She's a math teacher. We have a math teacher that's teaching at East this year, and then we have an elementary at Cherry Valley. And all 3 are doing really well. They're enjoying their time here and are speaking highly about the district back at Central State. And all 3 are taking advantage of our apartments as well. So they're being integrated into the Rockford community also. The Aspiring Teacher Program, so that is our paid year-long student teaching experience. Over the last year and a half, we've really redesigned that and built it out to be an even more robust experience and really improve the capabilities of the district. So if you're not familiar with that program, it is a paid year-long student teaching experience. It's designed to really help student teachers thrive in their first year in the classroom. The traditional 16-week model of student teaching just doesn't work for a lot of people. Many teachers that leave the profession leave within the first 3 to 5 years, and the feedback we receive is they just didn't feel ready to be on their own in the classroom. That 16-week experience just isn't designed to really help them thrive. That year-long intense experience with a highly qualified teacher leader by their side really helps teachers excel when they get in the classroom on their own. The compensation piece definitely helps too. One of the biggest obstacles to people going into education, specifically people that are looking to pivot that didn't go into education traditionally after college, is they cannot afford to just not work for 16 weeks and student teach. So we do offer a generous $20,000 stipend to our aspiring teachers to student teach in that year, as well as a lot of additional support that a traditional student teacher wouldn't get. In previous years, the way we had that program structured, specifically at the elementary level, was we had it kind of scattered around the district. So aspiring teachers were partnered with a really strong teacher leader, but they were spread across the district. And last year we sat down and looked at how can we make this better? And we've created more of a lab school model approach. So what we've done at the elementary levels, we identified 3 really strong schools, and we've placed a teacher leader and an aspiring teacher at every grade level in those schools. So K through 5, you have an aspiring teacher team at those 3 buildings. Currently, we represent 3 of our 4 quadrants, so we have 18 elementary aspiring teachers. And next year we plan, or Over the next year or two, we would like to expand that to include the other quadrant and move it to 24. So we have an aspiring teacher school representative at all 4 of our quadrants. And then next, I'm going to go into just student teaching a little bit. So I've got 2 slides to kind of talk about the relationship with student teaching. And as I talked about, our strategy is very relationship focused. It's not just waiting for student teachers to show up. We really try to start to engage students their freshman year of college. And for our pathway students, we're engaging them our junior and senior year of high school. But for college students, we don't want to wait till they just maybe get placed at Rockford Public Schools for a clinical experience, and then we hope the university decides to put them at RPS. That is not a strategy for success. So over the last 2 years, we've been very focused on actively working with universities and the students that are in our buildings, but also in the classrooms at the schools, to get in front of them, to invite them to our district, to connect them with administrators and teachers, get them in the classroom as often as we can, partner and build relationships with them, meet with them over the summer, meet with them periodically throughout the school year, and really incorporate them into the things we do outside of just observing those classrooms. So they really want to become members of Rockford Public Schools. So when they go back to their university supervisor, they are requesting Rockford Public Schools for clinical hours and for student teaching. Some other things that we're doing right now, we're utilizing that teacher vacancy grant to really boost this and really drive excitement around student teaching. So starting this spring, we are doing paid student teaching stipends. For the spring, we have 40 student teachers that will be receiving a $6,200 stipend to student teach with us. We've secured leases on several apartments with Urban Equity Properties that we're doing fully furnished apartments for 6 student teachers in our district. That's separate from the aspiring teacher apartments. This is specifically for student teachers. We have 6 that'll live in the apartments this spring, and then they'll transition to 6 new student teachers in the fall, with the hope to really recruit students from further universities, from further cities, to bring more people to Rockford. And then also to really kind of integrate those students into what does it mean to adult? What does it mean to kind of be on your own, and really set them up for that next step so they're ready to go when they graduate. We're looking at starting in the fall a loan forgiveness using that teacher vacancy grant. So we're going to provide $2,500 in loan forgiveness for students that student teach in Rockford and then sign a contract with us the following year. And then if you look at our university partnerships, our clinical student placements and student teaching placements have really grown over the last several years on those relationships we've been able to build. For the 23-24 year, we've got 19 university partners that have students placed in Rockford Public Schools, and we're on pace to have 107 student teachers this year. That is up about 20 total, or 25 student teachers this year. So. And then you can see some pictures on the side. These are just some of the pictures of our students in their apartments. So really cool. The picture on the bottom, Savannah and Vincent, we'll have more on them coming later. It's a really cool story. Those are 2 Rockford Public School grads. They are both pathway students. They are both on pace to be special education teachers. They're both student teaching. They've got an apartment, and they are going to be married soon. It's a really cool story. And then if we look at just kind of the overview of the apartments, we have 3 students from Central State in the apartments this year. We have 1 from Illinois State, 1 from Millikan, 2 from Northern Illinois University. The 2 from NIU are both based out of, they're both students from Chicago. And then 3 or 4 from Rockford University. So, and like I said, if you get a chance to check out the apartments, they are nice. They are fully furnished, top of the line, granite fixtures, just a really cool experience for these students. So, all right, any questions?
Thanks, that was very inspiring, and I appreciate all the work you're doing. Ms. Bennett, do you have a question? Ms. Bennett?
Thank you so much. This is very exciting. Like, all the pathways and all this stuff makes, not that athletics and arts aren't exciting, they're very exciting, but this is equally as exciting. But I do have just a quick question about the apartments. So can you explain a little bit about how it works? Like, how long can you be in it? Are you, once you're officially a teacher, like, do you have to move out, or like the logistics of the apartments?
Yeah, great question. So really we need to look at this in 2 different facets. Let's start with the apartments that are specifically designated for student teachers. So with the student teacher apartments, we sign the lease for the full year. And then the student teachers, the spring semester student teachers can be in there from January 1st to June 30th, so they're in there for that student teaching window. They know that at the end of June they do have to move out of that apartment. We will help them transition and find other places. That gives us the month of July to turn it around, and then a new student for the next semester would move in August, and they would be there through December. So we anticipate being able to get 2 students through each apartment over the course of the school year. The apartments that we have for our aspiring teachers are a little different because they are here for a full year. Those ones we do not furnish, but we do pay the lease on the apartment. They have the apartment for the full year, and then when that lease expires on June 30th, they have the option to then take that lease over themselves. So it kind of helps them get on their feet, get them set for that first year, and then once they have that first certified teaching position, that lease can transition into their ownership. So those ones we do not furnish because we don't maintain that same apartment year over year, as where the student teacher ones we anticipate being able to use the same apartment year over year.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Haley?
So you said there are 3 schools with aspiring teachers?
So we have 3 elementary schools that house the aspiring teacher program. At the secondary level, it can vary year to year. It really depends on the strength of the candidates that we get. So at the elementary level, we know we're going to have 3 kindergarten, 3 first grade, 3 second. It's very easy to plan. At the secondary level, it can change every year. Like this year, we have 2 math teachers and 1 history. Last year, it was just a history major. So we really look at the applicants at the secondary level and interview them and look at the strengths. And we really try to identify hard-to-fill positions, so math, science, SPED, bilingual. Unfortunately, that's not always the case with the applicants that we get. So we really try to find strong teacher candidates and then place them in a good placement for the secondary.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Madam President.
Thank you. So this is an excellent presentation and good information, and I really don't have any questions except it was well put together. I had an opportunity to review a little bit of the HB 1081, and it's good to know that we're already doing the work. And as I reviewed just the snippet or the synopsis of the bill, that we're really in a good place, and I certainly hope that we continue the momentum and get positive outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Bennett?
Sorry, I just have one last kind of statement. So I know that there are meetings and discussions and hopefully plans for social work pathways, so potential relationships with universities and things for that. And so just hearing this and hearing how well laid out this is and how much thought goes into this and how many years in advance it's planned, I just feel very hopeful that in a few years you guys will have something just as lovely to present for those like bachelor's level and master's level, you know, social work, mental health, support, all of those other extra lovely people that work in our buildings too. So I just feel very like inspired after this. So thank you.
Thank you. I can tell you that school social workers is probably one of the biggest requests we get from staff in the building, wishing there was a path to become a licensed social worker. School psychologist is also a huge need for our district. So we have talked about how can we potentially build some pathways into those too. We've been working with Mike Rye and the SPED team on that a little bit. So I hope to have more information for you in the future.
Yeah, and just Mr. Zedeker and Dr. Reed could share some stuff, and Mrs. Lawrence as well, but just set off a formal letter of support to the grant we're writing for the Winnebago County Mental Health Group to be part of a large cooperative with multiple partners, including the University of Illinois, College of Medicine is kind of the lead partner, but RVC, RU, Winnebago County, City of Rockford, nice coalition, and shout out to Mrs. Bennett, who helped put this whole thing together on the front end through some early meetings that she attended, made us aware of the opportunity, and we're making a lot of progress with a proposal. I think we will know, and we'll be putting something forward in a month. Yeah, getting close to submission time. It's going to be real.
Could you maybe send us a list of the 19 university partners that you have sometime when you have a minute? Thanks. Anyone else have any questions? Thank you very much for that presentation. finally, Mr. Zediker will report on the standards of service.
Okay, good evening. I'm here tonight to present results of our Fall Standards of Service Survey. Just some background for the board. As part of our system-wide framework, we have the standards of practice that we examine at the school from an accountability standpoint. And the standards of service is the dual accountability, so that is central office. And the results that you'll see tonight are based off of the participation of our principals, assistant principals, and deans at the buildings. Is where the survey is sent to. And you'll see some trend data over the last couple of years. Additionally, you'll see the format of this presentation will be the same. I will review each standard for the board, but you'll also see on the slide which departments are most heavily involved in that standard, so you can see how that is distributed. And then we'll show the data behind each standard. And then we will close out the presentation because we have many departments in central office that play a crucial and critical role for the success of our buildings, but they do not fall what we call above the water in terms of those primary services. And so we'll talk a little bit about the results for those departments as well. So K-12 Insight is our partner on surveys, so they help us with our employee engagement, our school quality, and then also our standards of service. So they conducted this survey for us. As I referenced earlier, participation rate for our building admin, you can see in the fall of 2023, we had an 81% participation rate or response rate, which was much better than last spring, but just a little bit lower than we had in the fall of 2022. We like to reserve time and really impress upon our building admin that it's really important to get their feedback because this drives process improvement for our departments, and it really gives us critical information to work with our teams. I won't go over all these key insights, but it is loaded on board docs, so there's an opportunity to review just some highlights from each standard and key insights from each standard as we reviewed the data that came back. So I will start with standard 1. The district follows established processes, timelines, and systems so that teachers, support staff, and students have the resources and materials they need when they need them. Major departments within this standard are budget, purchasing, schools teams, IT, security, tech services, HR, curriculum, special education, bilingual, and student services. So this represents the percentage of individuals who responded that the service was average or above average. So you can see we took a dip this fall as compared to the spring of 2023. Even if we go fall to fall, it saw a little bit of a decrease, not as much. What our trend's been showing us is that we tend to have a little bit lower scores in the fall, and then our spring, because we will give this again in April, most of the standards show that we increase in the spring. So to us, that's really good so that we can see that we're taking the information that schools are providing us, working with our teams to improve our service for our schools, and we're seeing that response in the spring. So as we give it in the spring, we would anticipate the work that we do with our departments will reflect those responses. What you see here is because the standards of practice are on a 4-point scale, standards of service is also included in central office staff evaluations, and that's on a 4-point scale. So then we create a weighted average for those standards so that we can easily transfer those into both how that would equate on standards of practice, but also the evaluation. So you can, again, see the trend that we had a little bit of a dip in the fall of 2023. Just to note the difference between the percentage here and the weighted average, the percentage is just the responses that were average or above average. When you go into weighted average, we also take in responses that were not satisfactory or strongly disagree into that. So that's the difference between the two scores and what takes into those calculations. Standard 2, faculty and staff have defined roles in the district's support plan connected to the success of the whole child and in alignment with the district's universal goals. Major departments within this standard are HR, curriculum, schools team, and early childhood. We did see an increase from the spring to this fall, up a little bit, but we did see from fall to fall a slight decrease. Again, as we see that weighted average, where 3.0 is where we want to see all of our standards at the minimum, so we want to continue to grow to hit that 3.0 line. Standard 3, our schools are clean and well maintained with all work orders addressed in a timely manner. So we have custodial, facilities, design, construction, tech services, and security. A very high achieving standard, as we can see consistently here in the 80s. We saw a slight dip, but if we look year over year from fall of 22 to fall of 23, we see an increase, which is great, and hovering over that 3.0 line. Standard 4 is professional learning is available for all staff who support students aligned to the universal goals and standards of practice and is accessible and easy to navigate. Major departments here are schools team and talent development. This had been the highest performing standard, and we did see a dip this fall. And those are things that we're taking a look at, both from the talent development team, and I know Morgan has examined practices and things for assistant principals around this standard of service. So we would anticipate the work and adjustments we make will get back to in those 80s what we're used to here in Standard 4. And this is the first time we've seen it dip below the 3.0. Standard 5, surveys and other data collection tools drive both customer service improvement and school improvement. Major departments here are accountability, communications, and curriculum. Again, a nice achieving standard here, staying in the mid-80s, just a slight decrease, both from the spring and fall of last year. And again, you see the difference of, even though it's in the 80s on the number of average to above average, when we bring in some of the responses that were agree or strongly disagree, it brought the weighted average down below 3.0. So you can see that discrepancy there a little bit. And again, work to get that above 3 for the spring. Standard 6, access to high quality and diverse staff members throughout the district, but with special attention to schools and classrooms. Talent development, equity, HR, and schools team are all major departments here. Saw a pretty large dip from last spring to this fall. So I know that Dr. Reed and his team, as well as talent development and how we're working to support, certainly would be a point of focus here, and would love to and anticipate to see that grow when we give it in April. And there's the weighted average of 2.69. Standard 7, accurate, timely, and relevant reports, dashboards, and corresponding systems will be delivered to all schools and meet the needs of end users. Accountability and IS are the major departments within this standard. Really great trend here. This is what we want to see as standards continue to grow and increase each time we give that survey. And the weighted average follows that same trend. And then finally, Standard 8, 3 times per year, the central office learns about and responds to the needs of each school during school improvement cycles to target deficit or high priority items aligned to the universal goals. Schools team, equity, and curriculum are major departments here. One caveat here a little bit with the responses for Standard 8 is, as we've adjusted how we've approached schools with their school improvement and the focus within standards of practice, we have kind of gone away a little bit from school improvement cycles where the central office comes out. So that practice has adjusted a little bit. So that may be part of the reflection in some of the lower scores from the spring and the fall. That is a part of our process as we're looking at revamping what the standards of service and the tool we use to really assess how we're doing to support. So we'll see a change there, but that is something that we've taken into consideration with these scores. And then departments outside the standards of service. So for the survey, the departments that are listed here, what the principals, assistant principals see are 3 to 4 major areas or major tasks or focus for these departments. And that's how they are rating their departments when you see these scores. And so, for instance, for allocations and compliance, they have a major task of making sure that the posting and timeline process is available for principals, for teachers. They make sure that certification communication goes out to teachers and our principals when they're hiring. So those are some examples of what principals and assistant principals would see as they rate. And so this is the percentage of strongly agree or agree that those departments are doing the things that they have mentioned, reference as major tasks within the department. So you can see that this is, I think, for me at least, intuitively backwards. I usually the most recent is at the top, but the most recent is actually in red, so, or excuse me, at the top of blue and not at red. So the very top line are our responses from this fall. You can see for most instances, it falls along the lines of our standards of service, where we're seeing a little bit of a decrease in overall responses or satisfaction from the principals. So again, these are things that we're taking to our departments to make sure that we're working on over the course of this year. Some more departments here. And with that, I will take any questions from the board.
So on this last couple slides, I guess.
Yep.
The numbers on that graph are based on the number of responses that are on the previous page.
Correct. So the principals and assistant principals on the survey are asked, have you interacted with these departments in the last 6 months? So that you'll see the end value for the departments will be different within each department. So if we go back to this slide, you can see that the end value is vastly different. So for fine arts, we had 2 people respond, and so the percentages will be vastly different when we take a look at the end value on those responses.
Yeah, that's how I figured that out. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Zedeker? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And our last item tonight is to preview the consent agenda. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda items? Madam President.
Thank you. I do have a question in regards to 7-0. So that is there was an attachment from regarding the DRL. So I think that this is a good plan, but I'm going to always think and consider, because we're looking at about 15 to 20 million, correct? So, and you could have responded, or you may need more time. I sent an email inquiring about outstanding work orders for schools. You didn't get that email? Okay. I'll double check to make sure it's not in a draft. So I think that it is wonderful, and it has many benefits to it. While we're spending money on new facilities, and I know we have a master's facility plan, and all of that is in progress, but my mind goes back to needs that we may have. This is separate, but it provoked a thought in regards to possible outstanding work orders that we have at our schools. So that I'll send you an email with the question in regards to how many we have outstanding and what is the plan for meeting those needs. For an example, I strongly advocate for McIntosh with the 18 entrances they have and the history of runaways, and how we can secure those entries that are most likely to be utilized to escape from the school. So I just want to make sure that we are giving thoughts to our current facilities and their needs as we embrace, innovative other areas of education with our new facility.
So, Ms. Pearson, you had reached out to me about potentially scheduling a meeting to discuss the number of entrances at McIntosh,
right?
Which we haven't scheduled yet, but I know we'll get that on the books. But in preparation for that meeting, I had reached out to one of our architects that we partner with. A lot of design is driven by code, and in some cases, the number of entrances is driven by code. I was specifically looking at 4 classrooms that had doors leading to them. And at one time, McIntosh was a pod, kind of an open concept pod classroom. So went back to our architects and asked, with current code, is there a reason why we still need those doorways in those classrooms? I found out we do not. So we do have an option of looking at potentially removing those doorways, which would remove that risk of students leaving. Currently, those doorways in those classrooms have a local alarm. So if a student were to leave, you've got an alarm right there in the classroom. We have, since the last board meeting, and I do believe I sent an update to the board, did install the local alarm as well as a horn strobe within the principal's office at McIntosh, and that newly installed door that we constructed this summer. The reason why that hadn't been completed, there was our initial solution, which was an emergency device that, when you pushed it, delayed 10 seconds before it unlocked, because once again, that is a means of egress. So in case of fire, that cannot be something that's always locked. Long story short, that was delayed, so that's why we went to option 2 with the local alarm and the horn strobe. We're working in conjunction with Director of Security Fred Deal. We will be still installing that delayed emergency handset once that arrives in the late spring. But I will be interested to learn about some of these outstanding work orders. I mean, we, as a facilities group, we do strive to turn over our work orders within 7 to 10 days, depending on the level of work order it is.
Okay.
As I think the board knows, we are working through several of our decennial life safety projects that were originally brought to board back in 2019-2020 period. Of course, with COVID, that kind of delayed some of those projects, but we've been working with finance, and we've had a 4-year plan. We will be finishing that up next summer, the summer of 25. Been working with Mr. Brown. We've been investing about $10 million a year in completing those decennial life safety projects, but happy to respond to any of the outstanding work orders that you have specific questions on.
Okay, so the question was if we had any. I'm not saying that we do.
So yes, we'll always have a backlog of work orders, just from the sheer size of our district and the age of our facilities. As part of this facilities master plan, though, we will be addressing several of our items that were identified during our facilities condition assessment that was completed in 2020. So that will be kind of a combination. So there will be an investment in remodel and new, but also an investment in our current infrastructure, which we working with Dr. Brown, we've been doing to date. We've been replacing roofs. We've been replacing interior, exterior doors. We'll be replacing some plumbing at several schools this year. So this definitely is a constant focus and strategy that we have.
Okay, and that's fine. We will follow up. But to make note, in terms of the doors at McIntosh, it is door R, door G, door P, door M, and door E. So that is R, G, P, M, E. And I'll table this, and then when we have our meeting, and I'll check my sent emails. Thank you very much.
Were there any other questions on the consent agenda items? I know. Any other brief questions? Did you have another question, Madam President? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes the work of the Performance Monitoring Committee then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Bennett. Okay, Ms. McCall will now lead the Planning and Development Committee portion of the meeting. Ms. McCall.
Thank you, Madam President. 8A, we have a resolution to adopt the 2023-2024 amended budget. A budget amendment for fiscal year 24 is needed to reclassify cost to correct function codes. There is no change to total revenue or total expenses. Are there any questions for Dr. Brown regarding resolution to adopt 2023-2024 amended budget? Seeing none, this will be brought forward to the is it the January 23rd meeting? Yeah. To the January 23rd meeting, 2024 board meeting for approval. Next item, 8B, Apogee Communication Platform. RPS currently uses multiple platforms to effectively communicate to schools and families. The Apogee platform will help us manage communication across all devices and social networks families use today. The Apogee platform brings everything we need for school marketing and school communication together into one single mobile app. Write a story once and send it across our school website, mobile app, Facebook, Twitter, emails, text messages, and voice calls. By making it easy to share stories, we can support the conversation around our district. Are there any questions for Mr. Pearson on the Apogee Communication Platform?
I don't have a question, but I do have a statement. So when I was at the joint conference, I had an opportunity, I was walking through the vendors, and I had an opportunity to meet the representatives from Apogee and had a discussion with them. And I think that this is absolutely phenomenal. Like, this one-stop shop should do it. I am certainly confident that it will. I think that in terms of the multiple ways that we have in communicating is wonderful. I mean, you can go to one or the other or your favored, but I think that bringing all of this, centering this, is absolutely phenomenal. And they appear to be an excellent group to work with. So I'm glad I had an opportunity to put a face with a name of a company. So many times we get presented with so much, and we never have an opportunity to have that conversation. So that was a good experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Madam President. This will be brought forward to the January 23rd, 2024 board meeting for approval. Item 9, we only have one item for the preview of consent items. Item 9A, digital resource card next scheduling software. Each secondary school designated administrator to act as a master scheduler. Master scheduling enacts a significant toll on staff members' time. Meanwhile, they have other ongoing building level responsibility that continually compete for their time and attention. The intention is to pilot implementation of Cardinex by Educated Advance with 8 of our secondary schools: Risa, Marshall Middle, Kennedy, Eisenhower, Flynn, West, Auburn, and Jefferson, from January to June of 2024. The pilot outcomes will then determine whether all secondary schools, excluding Barber and Roosevelt, will implement Cardinex moving forward. Are there any questions regarding the digital resource Cardinex scheduling software? Seeing none, this will complete the report for the Planning and Development Committee.
Thank you, Vice President McCall. I will now present the agenda items for Governance Committee. Policy 5.35 was discussed at the December Committee of the Whole. The policy was last reviewed in 2019, but has not been updated since 2002. The proposed changes reflect updates in recruitment due to technology changes, as well as changes in the employment process. Are there any questions or comments regarding policy 5.35? This brings me back to the House bill to be presented, a bill that State Representative Maurice West is working on. If you get an opportunity, you can review that bill. It was also on the list, among the list, the large list of bills that we receive from Jeremy. So that is, again, HB 1081. If you would like to review that, I think that our district is in a good place. We can definitely take a look at that and see what else we can apply for our district. If there's no any questions or comments, this policy 5.35 will return for a vote on January 23, 2024 meeting. I have asked policies 2.8, 2.15, 2.10, and 2.30 to be placed on the agenda for the board's review and discussion. So I'd originally, as we look at policies in general, and we have a lot of them, and so it was discovered that many of them some of them have been revised, but had never been reviewed prior to the revision. But I also noticed that the policies related to the board had not been reviewed. And so before delving into any other policies where it relates to the district, and we will get around to that, those policies where it relates directly to the board, I will make a priority in getting reviewed. Is there any update on the Press Plus? Lori? Excuse me, Attorney Holy. Welcome back. The Press Plus, so, yes. I think there's a microphone you have to use.
Okay. So we did take a look at that, and basically it requires us to still do the work and meet with ISB, but they collect it and would put it on their site. And so we have 13 policies that are unique to the district. And so what we've done is we've calendared those 13 policies to come on an annual basis now to the board for review. So you can see whether or not you want to keep those policies, if you want to update them. For example, we have a dance policy that was implemented in the 90s. And we've not taken a look at that policy at all. I don't know which of you were assigned the dance policy. Maybe it was you, Mr. Carpenter. But in any event, those are the ones that we've decided that we'll calendar regularly and bring them to the board for further discussion and review. Rather than Press Plus, it seemed like it might be a good idea, but it's very expensive. And for the 13 policies that we have, I'm not so sure that the return on investment is there.
So it seemed like there were other, that is the only benefit of having Press Plus? Is that what you're saying?
Right. So they would put all of the policies, including the press policies, on a separate site and meet with us regularly to update all of those as well, utilizing what they already provide to us. So and it just didn't seem like it would be of any additional benefit other than us actually putting it and calendaring it separately.
Okay, so we're gonna make sure that those policies are in rotation.
Correct.
So I don't know that, I'm not gonna ask the board members to report on the policies assigned to them because according to some faces, they have not been reviewed yet. So please, and I'll be happy to resend the email, but please make sure that you know, the 14 eyes is far better than 2. So it is important that we take a look at the policies that were assigned. And again, I'll be revisiting those specifically regarding the board so that we make sure that we are in place and properly functioning so we can be the best example of leadership before we start looking at other policies. I would ask that administrative procedures, that we start looking at that where it relates to policies so we can do cross-references when needed.
Right, and what we've decided also is to include the administrative procedure moving forward, attach that also to board docs when the policy is up for review, so you can also see the proposed revisions to the administrative procedure.
Awesome, thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you, Attorney Huntley. Ms. Bennett?
Do you have a time frame for the other policies? Like, do you want us to bring those for February or?
February Committee of the Whole.
Okay.
Let's make that a hard date to address those.
If you could get us any proposed revisions before then, that would be great. Then we can put the red line version on board docs for you.
And I do have another, so have we ever had, because I noticed that, and this was, I'm sure before many of us came on board, I noticed that most of, if not all of the policies were adopted in 1997. So many of them was 1997. So of course there was a lot going on in 1997. So we may want to consider at some point checking into a consultant regarding policies. I'll revisit that and have that conversation with Superintendent Jarrett, but just food for thought, because we can, the board members, and if there's board members that's their specialty policies, that's great and wonderful. But to have someone who that is their specialty and their expertise, then we may want to, as we take a look at policies, we'll check for any common themes or concerns, and if it comes to consulting, we should give that some consideration as well.
Okay.
So February Committee of the Whole, if you can report back on the policies that you reviewed and any questions or recommendation for changes for those policies. Okay, thank you. Okay, I would like to review our current board meeting schedule. Beginning August 20 in 2023, we agreed to go to one meeting outside of the Committee of the Whole. Now, the only thing that I've noticed that's a concern is the discipline packets. And by the time we're asking, like, where this, what's going on with the student, where is the student, we're looking at sometimes 4 weeks, and rare occasions longer. So how can we resolve that without adding another meeting? And I would like to hear from each board member on their feedback or suggestions or comments you have regarding the 2 versus the 3 board meetings. We'll start with Ms. Stanford. Thank you.
I know that the last couple of meetings have run really late, but I think that we're really just getting our arms around this whole 1 meeting a month thing. I think we should give it a few more months to see how it works itself out. Asking as many questions as we can before the meeting is going to be crucial to it being successful. I'm in favor of staying with the 1 meeting outside the Committee of the Whole meeting per month. I don't know if it's logistically possible for all board members to start the closed session earlier. I'm open to that if that's possible. But I'm not ready to chuck it just yet. I think that we're really working through the kinks thus far.
Mrs. Bennett. Thank you, Mrs. Stanford. Ms. Stanford.
Okay, I'm trying to gather my thoughts. I feel that we currently don't have enough time, but I hear what Ms. Stanford's saying, that maybe we're just getting used to this way of doing it that we've changed. So I'm open to reassessing in, say, maybe 2 months, but I do feel uncomfortable at times when it is that a student, it really is a direct consequence, not to us as grown people. It is an actual consequence to students that are waiting for decisions one way or the other for them to continue their education. And so, emails that have come from parents or caregivers who've been frustrated, timelines, and just different things that I think maybe 2 more months of trying would be okay. But I do think starting early is a really good idea, so we have more time. Because I also don't want people who are presenting at closed session to also feel rushed, that they have to present as fast as they can or they're not getting adequate time. So I think to be respectful of everybody that's involved in the really serious discussions and decisions that come, more time would be great. So either that's starting early or eventually adding another meeting if that's what we determine at a later time is necessary. So
thank you. Mr. Carpenter.
I generally agree that, I would prefer to have 1 meeting. I do think that we do get rushed, obviously, with the discipline issues, and with the students waiting for 4 weeks, that's also a problem. I also think that, you know, in an alternative to starting early, we could also start the regular meeting at 7:30 instead of 7 o'clock. I know that goes later, but for people that work regular times, then starting earlier might be easier than starting earlier, I guess. So I'm throwing that out there as a possibility also.
Mr. Carpenter? Ms. Haley?
So I do agree that there is a concern with students, parents waiting on decisions, but I do want to give it, you know, another couple months to see how it goes and see if we can work out the kinks in the new process here. I wouldn't be opposed to starting the meetings later or coming in earlier for those regular board meetings to review the discipline packets. So there it is.
Thank you. Mr. Schubert.
I agree with everybody. I think, you know, the students, it is kind of putting them in limbo at times. So that makes me nervous. I don't know if there's a creative solution we can think of outside of just adding another meeting to maybe review those discipline packets in a different form. I'm not sure. But I would agree that we could try it for a couple more months. If we feel like, you know, the students are on pause for too long, then I think it's something we'd have to address.
Thank you. Vice President McCall.
I'm thinking along the same lines of the other board members of, you know, try it out a little more. However, is it possible to maybe we can have a designated like discipline day where we just go over the discipline packets separately instead of, because of the sheer amount of incidents maybe we're having, maybe just have a day where we just strictly go over that. Just throwing that out there too. I'm opposed to starting the meeting earlier in the workday, and I could be in favor of moving the regular meeting back a half hour, starting at 7:30 instead of 7. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank to each of you. Dr. Jordan, did you have anything here? So a couple of things. It's pretty much a common theme about starting a closed session earlier. We're going to have to do something, and while we are waiting during the 2-month period. So I do support starting closed session earlier. So on the average, we are starting 10 to 15 minutes late. The reason why I'm not as supportive of starting later than 7, specifically on student recognition, the nights that we do recognition, because students are already, you know, 7 o'clock is kind of late for those who actually have bedtimes at, you know, 8:30 if they have those anymore, 9 o'clock. But we want to be mindful of the families, you know, that we're serving. So if we're saying that we're going to start at 7, then we need to start at 7. So I will change the start time for closed session at 4:30 while we, let's spin it.
Before you're saying what you're saying, would it be possible, is there anybody else in the room who also has to stay for the meetings that we're talking about changing? Does anybody have a thought or opinion that they would like to share? Nope. Okay. Just thought I would.
So.
And I just have a comment. Just remember that we have to have a quorum, right? So people who work from like 8 to 5, some people may not have that ability to every Tuesday lose a half hour of work. It doesn't matter. Every Tuesday, every other Tuesday, you know, for 12 months, it still add up to, you know, time. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, and trust me, I have given this much thought and looked at most scenarios except starting at 7:30. And we cannot be rushed in closed session. So, and that's where I'm seeing that the most time needed. So we only have an option of starting early in closed session or starting later in open session. So how many is interested in starting later in open session?
There was one other option, the
just moving to a different day.
Okay, so that's still an extra meeting. That's still an extra meeting. Thank you, Ms. Haley. As I meant to comment on that. That is still, we still need to come a third time. So if I'm gonna come a third time, I'm gonna just do it.
So my reasoning for bringing that up, it doesn't matter to what I'm seeing. It doesn't matter what time it's going to start. It's the discipline itself. So if we just in the question that arise from these discipline packets, if we have a meeting, an extra meeting where the entire time is devoted specifically to the discipline packets, maybe things will go a little smoother.
I hear you.
So if the objective is to, not feel rushed, but also not have students waiting, in theory, if we had an extra meeting, they could maybe be waiting by one less week, but we'd still have to vote in order for their changes to even exist anyway. So if we met the second Tuesday of the month, it's only discipline, but then we don't vote till the next week, it's still only 1 week sooner that they are getting any answers because we'd have to vote.
Could I suggest that that we present some data? Mrs. Lawrence would be happy to maybe do some year-to-year comparison on how long students are waiting, because I do think focusing on the impact on students is a huge part of this, and I think Mrs. Lawrence feels relatively confident that the impact to students has not been substantial due to some of our placement options that we have. So perhaps we could provide the board with some case studies and some data so that you could react to how it's impacting students directly before you finalize any decision-making process.
I have a little bit of data right now for you. To date, we brought 168 students to board for an expulsion or expulsion in abeyance agreement. Only 5 of those have missed our anticipated board date, which I know that Mr. Graffey had shown you that in the most recent closed session, and that is our timeline that we provide to schools to bring cases forward in a timely fashion. I can tell you right now that just really kind of based on our process. So we schedule EIA meetings out 5 days for parents. So that's a standard practice that we have moved to ensure that parents have time to review the EIA. The administrators give that to them. They have 5 days to review that, and then they come back for a meeting on that 6th day. So that's 5 school days. If they don't agree to the EIA, we are then moving toward an expulsion, which is 9 calendar days out from that date for an expulsion hearing. So there are some factors in that timeline that we can't adjust. It's difficult to adjust. And so when we're looking at in terms of how long it takes a student to go to board, we're looking at the quickest turnaround that we've ever had is 12 days, and that's school days, so that's 2 weeks already. And the longest that we've had is 98 days, and those have other mitigating factors involved in those cases that cause expulsion hearings and or additional meetings along the way. So those could be additional outside legal counsel, those could be special education issues that impact the ability for us to move those forward in a timely fashion. I do also want to remind you that students that are on expulsion and abeyance and expulsion are pending those disciplinary actions are in our schools, or the parents have chosen for remote learning. I can tell you out of the 168, we have 115 signed temporary remote. They remain in that until they have a seat, unless they're expelled. So once they're expelled, we do drop them, and we work with the family to get them through the summit application. That is taking some time. November was our largest board meeting. We average about 25 to 35 cases every month. November was very high. Out of those, again, out of 168, we have 17 requested safety transfers. So those would be from a zone school to a zone school where they're still in school receiving education. 6 remained at their zone school. 2 are already in placements and violated the code of conduct again, so we're just pending additional consequences. And then 25 of those students signed EIAs at elementary, so they remained in their elementary, and 3 remained at their zone at the secondary level. So in terms of getting students to board, many of our students, 157 out of the 168 signed EIA agreements. And so they knew what the pending discipline, what we were asking the board to accept was. It's really just that small percentage of expulsions that might put a family in some limbo. So I just wanted to if you have any questions about any of that, I know
I just wanted to also
throw a bunch of numbers out.
That we do have an entire position devoted to ensuring that these families that we know are often struggling with significant issues, with this being a very challenging event for any family to go through. We do have Mrs. Simon, who's really case manages all of these situations as well. So when we say that we're putting a student in remote learning, there's care and attention that goes to those students and to those families to ensure that there is actual opportunity for learning to occur as we wait for placement. So I just did want to highlight that. There was a time where I don't think we did as good of a job with that, and I think that has been a commitment that I think we're proud to make to ensure that students do receive learning opportunities while the due process plays out, because all of these should be considered on a case-by-case basis, and to ensure that services are being received is a priority for the district as well. So I think it's a wonderful conversation we're having, but I did want Mrs. Lawrence to be able to share some of the data, and also we could update you more regularly on that data so you can monitor it if we continue in the current environment as well, so you can see if the backlog is becoming an increasing problem. But I did also want to highlight the work that Ms. Simon and the team are doing to support students in this period as well.
Thank you. So, for example, the 5 that may miss that timeline, what can we do? Of course, we can't. How can we be made aware, say, of that 5 students, there may be a board member that is advocating for one of those students. So how can that be communicated to the board when we see that we're going to miss that timeline? And
the question I hear you asking is how does my team let you know when we have pending that just continues to roll pending, like the 98
Correct.
days? Well, we can definitely have those, add that to, we load every week all of the packets that we have completed for your review so that we're not bombarding you with 35 at one time. We can add that to that list to ensure that you see at the very top that these are pending, and we can let you know some of the reasons why those are pending. So any that we don't anticipate to make the scheduled board date, and that goes from the date of the incident, then we will let you know why that is pending.
thank you. I think that would be most helpful as we pay attention over the next couple of months on what we need to do in terms of an additional board meeting. That will make the difference, in my opinion. So thank you very much. We still need to resolve starting earlier for closed session, because if we don't, and the number of cases that we have coming, that's going to make us, potentially cause us to be late in starting open session. So we don't want to go back into closed session to finish them, to prevent our families from waiting. So I need to hear the feedback on those willing to start closed session earlier. Go ahead. I think I got you, but go ahead.
Madam President, we've stated some possible mitigations to that, as far as board members submitting their questions timely beforehand. So that means, as soon as she dropped the discipline packets in there, then we have to review them then, and so we can have enough time to submit the questions ahead of time and give them time for them to respond. So I think, maybe trying a couple of these options the 2 months before making any changes, utilizing the different mitigations that the board members put out, may be an option instead of deciding today we're going to either start earlier or start later.
Thank you, Vice President McCall. So to make sure, I'm going to be very transparent. I do not trust starting open session on time. And I've shared this before. Our students and family will have to be a priority. And so whether it is making a decision tonight or not, I need to hear from board members on who's willing to start closed session early, because we can submit questions, but that does not mean that we could very well have additional questions by parents or community members the day before the board meeting. And we can submit those too, but you all know that you've gotten the 11th hour emails just before a board meeting. So we still have that window of possibility of needing to ask questions during closed session. So we'll start with Ms. Stanford.
I would certainly support starting early. I can start as early as 4 o'clock.
Thank you. Ms. Bennett?
I'm also willing to start early, and the team can attest I always send questions in advance, but I think there is a lot of value and necessity in having discussion. So not only do I get my question answered, that's great, but other board members don't necessarily get that same question answered and maybe didn't know to have that question, and I don't know to have a question somebody else has. So I think there's a lot of value in the discussion, which I don't think should be rushed. And so I'm also in agreement to start early and continue to start meetings on time at 7, because I agree there are poor little kids who have fallen asleep while sitting here during their acknowledgments because it is late at night and they are little. So I think starting at 7 if possible, if we could move it up. But yes, those are my thoughts.
Mr. Carpenter.
Well, it is important to have discussion on the discipline cases. They're not cases that, or you can submit questions ahead of time, but the responses can't be to everyone since it's closed session materials. So it's different than other issues that are on the agenda. So it's important to have time for discussion. But I don't think we should be changing the starting time if we all are not going to be able to make it at that time. So the other option is starting closed session at 5 o'clock, starting the regular meeting at 7 o'clock, whether or not we're done with discipline and going through everything in the meeting. And if we have to go back into closed session to finish the discipline later in the evening, we can do that. It's not a great option because we're all tired by the end of the meeting, but I think that that's a better option than changing it to a time that not everybody can accommodate.
Okay, so I hear your point in terms of everyone being a part, but are you willing to start closed session earlier?
I am if all of us can make it at whatever time, I can make it at that time.
Okay. Ms. Saley?
I am in agreement with Paul on this. Although I'm able to start earlier, I think it's important that we all come to not necessarily a consensus, but a unanimous agreement.
Mr. Schubert?
I'm willing to meet earlier. I may not be able to because of my day job.
I understand. So I hear what you all are saying. Yes, you did. Come up, Vice President McCall.
I am not willing.
I hear you. Thank you. So this is, again, a moment of transparency. I need every board member, if being there, not starting early, and I'm flexible, I'm in support of starting early. Then, because some of us are not there at 5. So if supporting, as long as everyone can be there, say at 4:30, or if you can't be there at 4:30, then we're not in support of it. And we continue to not be there at 5, then it really isn't gonna matter if you're there at 4:30 or 4:45 if you're 15 minutes late on average. Mr. Carpenter.
I don't think anybody's 15 minutes late on average. I think there's a few people that get there a few minutes late, but nobody's,
I'm stressing the importance of starting on time for open session. So if starting early is not an option, and we're concerned about everyone being there, then we should be equally concerned about everyone being there on time and engaged. Isn't that fair? Fair or not?
Yes,
I guess it's fair.
It's fair. And I would say sometimes I am that person who are, maybe 5 or 10 minutes late. I came in late today. But I don't have any, I feel like I'm not taken away from the discussion. I come in, I get right in, and all my questions, I'm not making it longer by me being late.
I hear you.
Right. So, that's on me. If I feel like I missed something, that's my responsibility. Like, I feel like it's our responsibility to read our stuff quick and get our questions in and to, honor the commitment that we have. I'd rather, get there at 5:10 because it started at 5 and miss a little bit, then it started at 4:30 and I still get there at 5:10 and miss the majority of a meeting.
I hear you, Vice President McCall. So we're going to leave it in place as we give the 2-month window. If we are 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late, then we can start at 4:45. I'm willing to do whatever we need to do to start open session on time. And if we have to cut it off at 10 till 7, then we will go back in the closed session to resolve it. Fair? Fair. Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Okay, so we are in meeting fatigue. We are now on to the governance consent items. Are there any questions? Of course not. Everybody's ready to go. Yeah, well, we don't have any. I wasn't given any anyway. So, no questions? Okay, very good. If there's no further comments, agenda recommendations by the board, I'll take a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Good night. Thank you.